So now we shall have an illuminating keynote that shall peer into the technological landscape of 2030 and contemplate the profound impact of the artificial intelligence, right from the autonomous vehicles to personalized healthcare. The AI is imposed to revolutionize every aspect in the way we are living right now. And in this engaging session, Mr. Shiva Kumar Padmanabhan, MT of AstraZeneca India Private.
How about now? Okay, great. So good afternoon, and thank you, NASCOM, for this wonderful opportunity. I've really been looking forward to this day because I actually grew up 200 meters down this road for the first 15 years of my life. So it's great to come back to Trivandrum. So thank you for this amazing opportunity. This is a topic that we often talk about, and everyone has a perspective, right, about what's going to happen in 2030 around AI, and how does the technology industry in India, especially, prepare for it? What is the implications of the massive transitions that are happening? How do we prepare for it? We have both global capability centers, such as the one I lead for AstraZeneca, and we also have the India ITES industry, which is providing services to companies around the world, right? So again, each of us might have a different perspective on this, but I'm just going to share some of my perspectives of how I see this evolve. So it'd be great to hear yours at the end, right? So I'll try to keep this as brief as possible so we can also have a discussion. Now, the future in 2030 is going to look dramatically different, right? The technologies that will shape 2030, the world, the businesses, the people, the industries, the countries, is just going to be very different from what we have today. We have some of these things already starting to emerge. We are seeing the early signs. But if you look ahead these 7 years, we're going to see a domination of these types of technologies. Again, not going through all of them, but things like immersive 8K VR, which is like you actually see the same resolution as I can see today. What I see today with each of you, the shades of your shirt and the stripes on your suits, I'll be able to see all of that in VR with that type of technology. So imagine that. Combine that with the power of AI, combine that with the power of geospatial data that we have, you could really be creating something very different. Look at digital twins, which is already there. It's almost mainstream already, but it'll have much higher resolution and ability to control. Terabyte internet, we are talking about, when I see a 1 Gbps, I'm so thrilled today, but imagine if it was 1 Tbps, the kind of resolution, the kind of information, the data that can flow anywhere to anywhere. Brain interfaces, human AI, level 5 autonomous, which means we don't need drivers anymore, right? So these are sorts of things that are coming at us very fast. But the point here is that these megatrends will reshape every business and every economy. And therefore, the technology services that these businesses are going to need, these economies, these countries are going to need, are also going to transform, right? And we have to prepare for it. There are 5 million people today in our industry that are working in these types of services, IT-enabled services, GCCs. How do we get this massive workforce ready for what's coming? And this is just today's numbers, and we all actually are expecting this to grow, right? So there'll be, by the time we reach 2030, we'll probably be 10, 15 million people actually working in this industry that need to be ready for it, right? So that's the big challenge that we have. Again, you might have seen various versions of this, but the fact is that AI is definitely one of those big technologies in all those boxes there. AI is everywhere, really, right? And it's going to completely have a humongous economic impact. If you look at 2030, $16 trillion is the estimation that we've seen more frequently. And it's going to come out of many things. First, it's going to come out of productivity, which everyone is talking about, right? Yeah, the labor productivity, we can do things faster with fewer people, fewer resources. That's productivity. But also, because we're able to create more personalized products and services, you're going to see an increased uptake of these products and services, increased revenues, right? The whole economy is growing because of the fact that we can create better products and services. Again, the business velocity, like the speed with which we can do things, that's going to increase. That's also going to contribute to faster time to market, faster time to value. That's another lever. And finally, because we will have improved quality, because we're going to use these technologies everywhere, whether it be in design, in engineering, in manufacturing, which then means less warranty costs, less rework, less defects. And that's another contributor. So you see all those colors are just representing how this massive 16 trillion impact is going to be created. So just imagine, I think we as a country have a big ambition to be a 5 trillion economy, right? But AI alone is going to create 16 trillion between now and 2030. So that's the kind of scale that we see. And that's going to be enabled by the AI industry in itself will be about 2 trillion. That's what they say. I mean, just the revenues of the AI-related companies and industries. And this was calculated before Gen AI became big, right? So probably there's going to be further revision on what is the industry going to look like. But in a nutshell, it's going to become very pervasive, right? Instead of just a few early adapters, companies and industries, it's really going to be universal. It's going to be like the internet in some sense, right? It'll be pervasive, it'll be in every industry, it'll touch every aspect of most of the world. Instead of having one-off applications that we are doing today, like, we're building a model for a certain machine learning problem, or we're building a Gen AI application for a certain use case like recruiting candidates or screening resumes, it's going to get actually built into all the enterprise applications and platforms, right? Whether it be SAP or Oracle or Salesforce or Workday or ServiceNow, all these platforms are going to build it in so that actually when people are working every day, right, in their normal routine, they will be able to access AI almost seamlessly, right? You don't even know whether you're using the AI or using the traditional technology. So that's kind of the merger that will happen. And again, the technologies will keep shifting. I had a session last week, 2 weeks ago, with a company that's talking about neuromorphic computing, which is where the chips are now going to work more like the human brain, where the number of neurons that fire is very low, right, at any given time, so that it uses a fraction of the power of a massive GPU, because the GPU is always firing a lot of neurons, whereas our brain is firing very few select neurons that are actually required. So if a chip can emulate how the brain is going to function, then imagine, then you can have very low power usage of AI, which means you can put AI into satellites, you can put the space session we just had before, right? So some of the constraints of actually doing AI on the fly are the processing power and the capacity that's needed. So with this kind of computing, you don't need that. So all of these things are just emerging. They're just coming up very fast, and it's actually going to create a democratization of AI, right? So it's not that there's just a few companies, big companies that can access it, but more and more, like almost everyone is able to do that. The subscription for OpenAI, right, ChatGPT, is $20 a month. Anyone can get it, right, $20 a month. Imagine, the companies had to invest millions of dollars to get that type of capability before. But now with these kind of large language models, the investment is one time, and then the use is millions of times, right? So the price points at which these capabilities can be accessed is going to become really, really pervasive, so that it becomes pervasive and everyone can actually use it in their business. So that's what's happening. But what about our own industry? So coming back, okay, that's a big picture, a lot of things happening, very, very exciting, very interesting. But it is not such a cheery picture when you look at our industry if we didn't do anything, right? If we just kept going the way we were going, it's going to really not be very such a pleasant or such a thrilling story, right? Software development, I was just talking to Ankit from NASCOM earlier, they're talking about a 55% productivity improvement in software development. And we have seen in our own company 15-20% within the last 6 months of using Gen AI, using code completion, using AI in writing software, using AI in writing unit tests, which is a very, very good application, right, that we found is developers hate to write unit tests, and now you can just feed the program to this thing, and then it'll give you all the unit tests, and all you need to do is just edit those. So if that's the sort of productivity, I mean, of the 5 million people we have, how many are actually writing software? And how many do we actually need in 2030 to write that software? Of course, the positive thing is that the amount of software we need will increase, right? And the types of software will increase. But in today's terms, that is a massive shift and a massive impact on our industry. Consumer grade self-healing enterprise systems. So we're talking about so a big part of our industry is in application support, right? We make sure that applications break, we fix it, we have tickets, we solve them. But when we get to these self-healing systems, what happens is they're using predictive capabilities to not know when things are going to fail and be able to self-correct. And even when things do fail, we have tools like Gen AI that can find solutions based on the vast data that we have built over several years on what tickets came, what were the issues, how did we fix it. So a very junior engineer can just ask a question and get the collective experience of hundreds of people who have worked on it before. So that's going to disrupt our application support type of business model. Intelligent agents, near human capabilities. We already have virtual agents, but people hate using them today, right? Because they are not that smart, they are not that helpful, and so on. But that's going to change, right? As we get near human capabilities into this AI, it's really going to be a pleasure to use these agents, maybe even better than talking to a live person, right? So if that's going to be the case, what about the customer support industry, which is a huge part of the 5 million jobs, right? It's the BPO jobs in customer support and providing answers to questions that are asked. Any kind of service, right? Customer service or B2B service and all of that. So that's another big disruption. Content services, I don't need to talk about this. You all know this very well. Massive disruption from Gen AI. I mean, today, if I need to create content for a marketing campaign, or I need to create content for an advertisement I need to place, you can do that in seconds, right? And with this Gen AI type of capability. So a lot of our industry is actually in content, right? Creating content, editing content, filtering content, and positioning the content in marketing campaigns. Huge disruptions. Reporting and analytics, that's another part, the KPO industry, right? If you look at that, massively automated data engineering and voice-based analytics. So tomorrow, the picture that is very much possible, and today also we are already starting to see this, is person driving to work and just asking with voice, what is my inventory, what are the parts that are going to stock out, where are they located, how can I ship them, which is the fastest way I can ship them to my plant. By the time they drive up, all this analytics is done, and the order has been placed to move product from another warehouse to the current factory. So the analytics is going to look very different. Nobody's going to come, switch on the screen and run a report and wait to see the answers, right? It's all going to be voice-based. It's going to be on the fly. It's going to be almost so intuitive. And the underlying data pipelining and data engineering that's required for it, AI is probably better than humans in doing that, because you need to look at the different data elements, what is matching between different systems, what is the likelihood that this field which says order number is the same as order N in the other system. So that's an innate capability of these systems. So that's the sort of disruption we are looking at, right, across the industry. Every single major service line we have is going to be disrupted, for sure, right? So what is the positive side of this, right? That's all sounding very, a little bit not very depressing, right? But what's the positive side is that new service lines will emerge. New service lines will emerge. And the question is India going to be the leading provider of these new service lines, or is somebody else going to do it, right? So that's where we have to get ready. These are just some of my ideas. I'm sure there are many other things that that I have missed. But just a quick review is the new AI and immersive offerings, right? Like creating and training those near real-time virtual assistants, creating the digital twins, creating the new language models. There's not going to be just one or two. There's going to be many industry-specific, domain-specific models that need to be built and trained. Creating, personalizing, and validating the immersive experiences, right? The ones we talked about, the 8K VR. Who's going to create those experiences? You need a mix of software and creative skills to do that. And also AI advisory services. So, and then again, smart factories and labs. So sustainability, and that goes with the fourth point and the second point. The sustainability is going to be huge. Energy savings, reporting of sustainability, designing, building, and running those smart factories, warehouses, offices. That's another huge business, right? And today there are some very entrenched players, but as you look at AI, it's going to free up. It's going to de-layer those services. It's going to make it available to a much larger section of providers, because a few big firms will not be able to do it all. The proprietary standards are going to break, and you're going to see a really sort of accessible sort of layers in which we can play in this whole area, right? ESG models, ESG reporting, energy management, optimization, all of these are going to be totally new, and all companies around the world are going to be mandated to it. Right now it's a certain size or a certain nation of origin, but this is going to become pervasive. AI audit and testing. So the testing fraternity is very big for us, right? The testing people involved in software quality and testing. Now that's going to it will not be the way it is today, but that's going to become very important in the future, because we got to talk about these models. Are they safe? Are they inclusive? Are they ethical? So someone's got to look at it with a neutral eyes or a different set of eyes, right? So that's going to be a huge different way of testing and validating, but it's going to be very important. And also AI is going to transform testing itself, right? How you actually understand the risks and where the test coverage needs to be. Model explainability is going to be huge. Its courts of law are going to challenge these models, and you have to provide evidence on their explainability, and that means there's got to be a team always looking at that explainability on a continuous basis. Cyber, again, cyber will take a very different shape, and it will just explode, right, because of the deep fake, the content and copyright infringements that will come with Gen AI, and general erosion of trust that will come. We will need lots of global regional command centers because of the geopolitics. We're going to see sort of a breakup of how these things work, right? And you need to be where this action is. So that's another one. So in summary, there are the services we operate today are going to either vanish or like really become much smaller, but the new services are just going to take off. And those who are prepared to take advantage of these new services are the ones that will win, right, in 2030. It's a very quick segue that we also need to understand how IT's role is evolving. A lot of us serve global IT organizations. I'm part of a global IT organization of my company. And today, IT is going to look very different in 2030. There's not going to be these massive contracts, right? There's not going to be big systems that IT is going to build and safeguard. It's really going to be providing the building blocks so that the business can assemble them and drive innovation for the business using those building blocks. IT is going to be a coach, a teacher of the newer technologies and capabilities, so that the democratized and citizen sort of innovation can happen across a business. So if that's what's going to happen, then the industry should also support that. The GCCs have to support that model. The IT services industry has to support that model. So that's an interesting shift. So now, just to kind of bring this into a close, two slides I want to cover. One is how do we prepare? So how do we prepare for this, right? Both GCCs as well as ITES. I would say the first thing to do is disrupt every service that we are doing today, offering today, and working on today before someone else disrupts it, right? We got to look at our testing. We got to look at our development. We got to look at all of this. If we stand back and try to sort of protect it, then that's not going to work. We're going to become a Kodak, right? Which didn't see the future. So we got to disrupt. We got to talk to our customers about the disruption that this is causing, and the ability for us to ride that disruption and be ahead of it rather than be disrupted by it, right? So that's really important. Establishing those global COEs in all of these newer areas is important because with that seed, we can then grow that much faster. Know that the clients and parent companies, they're going to look for simplicity, security, transparency, and domain specificity. The world is getting so complex that whoever can deliver a simple message and a simple service, a simple building block is going to be valued, right? So we got to not make sure we don't overcomplicate, right? We don't talk technical jargon and confuse everybody. Make sure we create a very clear message for who we are dealing with. Participating in those collaborative ecosystems, Indian government is working on so many things, states are working on so many things, ecosystems are getting created. We have to drive the innovation east to west. Because today, a lot of this new thing is happening in the Silicon Valley, right? But it needs to also happen. We have the capability, right? We have the people, we have the expertise. We have to lead, we have to be ahead. Watching geopolitics very closely because we see the balkanization that's happening, right? Where walls are getting built. There might be different ecosystems. It may not be a single global process and application and ecosystem we operate. It may be multiple. So you have to keep an eyes and ears open for that. Lead in sustainability. This is one of the key things because people will come for help with sustainability services to partners who are themselves champions of sustainability, leaders of sustainability. So we have to be ahead of that. We have to be inculcating that in our spirit. And finally, what about the people, the talent? How do we prepare them for that? Our people need to be the pilots and AI will be the co-pilot. So that's a simple analogy, but that means a lot, right? How do you become a pilot, right? You have to have a lot of that background knowledge, training. You have to have that flying hours of experience. So that's where I think we need to accelerate that kind of learning so that our people can be the pilots with AI being the co-pilot. Learning agility, no need to say this. That's a mantra we all chant every day, right? But it's going to be more and more critical than ever because where tech goes is in that first slide you saw, those 16 or 12 different things. Now, diversity of backgrounds is going to be very key. If you're going to evaluate the ethical nature of an AI model, or you're going to evaluate if it's going to stand up in court, you need law type of graduates, right, in your workforce. You need arts graduates, visual communications. If you're going to do that creative stuff with Gen AI, you need commerce. So different types of profiles, and even in engineering disciplines. I was just talking to somebody from IIT Madras the other day, and he said, in the future, he sees the traditional branches kind of coming back, right? Because you talk about robotics, you talk about intelligent automation, intelligent buildings, you talk about space, all of that. You need the traditional disciplines like the electrical and the mechanical, the material science, those disciplines. We have to build them into our workforce because we don't know what's the service offering we're going to create by 2030, right? We need those people in the workforce. We'll have to prepare ourselves to leverage the gig economy in a big way because some of these offerings are not 1 or 2 or 3 skills. They are like 10 skills that you need to pull it together into an offering, whether it be a virtual reality immersive experience or whether it be an intelligent building type of offering, right? And then the pyramid will shift, right? Like traditionally we have always been used to the pyramid with a lot of new graduates and then going up the chain, and it might become a bit like that pentagon because you need a good level of people with that who are the pilots, right? You can't all have trainees pilots, so you have to have some real pilots as well. So that's going to shift the equation in that way. So that's a quick sort of rundown of some of my thoughts on where this is going with our industry, and I think I'm very confident that we will ride this wave as well, but it is a big wave, right? So we better get ready. So with that, I think that's all I had in terms of sharing some thoughts. Yeah.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So now may I request Mr. Colonel Sanjeev Nair, the CEO of Technopark, to kindly come over to the stage and hand over a tribute from NASCOM to Mr. Shivakumar Padmanabhan, the MD of AstraZeneca India Private Limited, for conducting such a wonderful technical keynote. Thank you so much, sir.